Okay, I call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been duly called and that the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We will now move into closed session. Okay, we're back from closed session. We'll move now into opening ceremonies. Trustee Phillips will lead us in a prayer.
Thank you, President McNeely. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today as the members of this school board, seeking your guidance and wisdom. We recognize the responsibility entrusted to us in shaping the future of our students and our community. Lord, grant us the strength to make decisions that prioritize the well-being, education, and growth of each member of the Duncanville ISD family. Help us to work together as a team, united by a shared commitment to excellence and the betterment of our schools. We ask for your blessings upon our teachers, staff, students, and parents, that they may find inspiration, motivation, and support in their educational journey. Guide us in fostering an environment where every student can thrive and reach their full potential. Grant us the wisdom to discern what is right and just, and the courage to act accordingly. May your light shine upon our discussions, decisions, and actions, guiding us towards the path of goodness and righteousness. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Now, Trustee Fahey will lead us in the pledge.
Stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
We'll now move on to Superintendent's report. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, President McNeely, board members, and those that are in attendance tonight. I'm pleased to present the following items under the superintendent's report. We have a few more items than we typically do, primarily because it's the start of the school year and just a lot of great things to report on. So let's just get to it. The first thing that I'd like to report on is our DVille Day 1, our red carpet welcome. It really takes a lot of planning and work behind the scenes to have a great opening of school. And so I was really excited to see our red carpet welcome be a success. We were grateful to have representatives from all walks of our community. We had local businesses do a warm welcome, red carpet welcome for our students. We had members of the city council, former members of the city council. We had the police chief and the city of Duncanville ISD. We had the fire department represented. And then we had the mayor, Mayor Gordon and his wife, as well as our board of trustees welcome our students with the red carpet welcome. It's a lot of positive energy, lots of just greetings and warm welcomes as our students return back to school. And so I want to thank our parents for sharing the first day of school pictures with us. We had hashtag DVille Day 1, and there are so many nice pictures of parents and citizens participating in our first day of school, and we're really off to a great start. And so we received thousands of pictures from our families, and if you get a chance to look at our hashtag DVille Day 1, you just might see yourself in one of those pictures. But it was a great first day of school. The next item, as we continue some of the events that we typically do to open up the new school year, we had record number of families show up at Meet the Teacher Night. at our elementary campuses and our intermediate campuses. This is a time that is really good for the parents to get in and see the schools, for them to build relationships with, thank you, Jody, to build relationships with their children's teacher, but also the other extended members of the staff who are so very important for them to get to connect with. And so it was a very well-attended event in our elementary schools. And upcoming, we have our middle schools this week on August the 24th, and then we have the high school and PACE coming up August the 31st. And so looking forward for those Meet the Teacher nights where those parents will have an opportunity to learn about classroom expectations and really just ways they can partner and support their child and their success to get off to a great start this school year. So Meet the Teacher night was a success. Also want to take a moment to thank the Duncanville Rotary. The Duncanville Rotary has been working all summer to partner with multiple elementary schools in our school district. And thus far, they've done work at Merrifield, Central, and Fair Meadows Elementary. And basically what they're doing is they're wanting to enhance the teacher lounge. If y'all remember the teacher's lounge, they weren't always the best coffee machines and coffee pots and the best fridges. And so the Duncanville Rotary is going across the district, and they are buying new coffee machines and new fridges and sofas and just doing things to make our teachers feel valued. And those kind of things go a really, really long way for teachers, to be able to have a comfortable space to go and unwind during the very short break that they have. But we want to thank the Duncanville Rotary for refreshing the teacher lounges at the elementary schools. Again, those acts of kindness go a really, really long way. The next item, it seems to be something that we have been able to maintain ongoing here in Duncanville. And for the second consecutive year, Duncanville has been named a District of Distinction. The Visual Arts Administrators of Texas, the TAEA, that's Texas Art Education Association, they recognize districts for outstanding leadership in promoting the arts in their district and in their community. There is a rubric that examines the district's visual arts programs for participation. Over 1,200 districts were eligible to apply, and just 68 districts will receive the outstanding honor. And of course, Duncanville is one of the 68. And so we thank our fine arts director and all of our fine arts staff for continuing to maintain that legacy of excellence with our programs. The next item is an update on transportation. We're excited about EduLog. It is very new, but this is a program that will help. It's really an app that helps our parents to be able to track their students and where they are on the bus, ensure that they got on the bus. There's a GPS location for their child's bus ride so that they know once a kid got on the bus, they can kind of anticipate when that bus will arrive, so they can better plan. And so we did a social media rollout, had a few wrinkles Thursday, Friday, the first 2 days of school, but as each day passes, we're starting to really line out the new software. And so I'm really excited about this tool that's going to really help our parents. And once we all get better command of it and the systems are operable, it's really going to be a great tool for our parents to take advantage of. We wanted to jump out there even though we knew it was new. It's just going to take some time for everyone to get familiar with it. But again, it's going to be a great tool for parents to be able to track their students versus having to call the transportation department and be placed on hold while they wait to see where their kid's bus is. So we're really excited about that. The next item is enrollment. Enrollment is really, really big. Many districts around us are seeing a decrease in enrollment, and fortunately for us in Duncanville, we are doing really, really well in enrollment. This slide really just kind of depicts where we are. I would highlight the following with our enrollment. Our projected enrollment as we started the year was 11,842. And there's a lot that goes into projecting. You got to be pretty precise with your numbers. I want to thank Ms. Brown and her team for really doing a great job over the course of the summer. We had multiple enrollment events, and so I think that's one of the major reasons why we are so on target with our enrollment. But that's what we were projected, and so as of today, we were at 97.5% of our projection, which is 11,549. So we're really, really trending well. Central Elementary, Merrifield Elementary, Smith, and Duncanville High School, all of those campuses have met or exceeded their projected enrollment. So we're really, really starting off really well. And today's ADA was at 93, a little over 93%. And so if we can stay in the mid-90s, low 90s through December, that will be really good for us. Of course, you know, ADA is tied to funding. Myself, Mr. Garrison, we monitor that on a regular basis. And so we're really off to a great start on our enrollment. And I'll be continuing to provide the enrollment data board to you in your weekly update, so you know how we're trending. The next item is something on accountability. This year's data definitely reflects a redesigned STAR test that the legislature approved recently. Over the course of last school year, we've been sharing that information, and I've been meeting with stakeholder groups and just been providing detailed updates on the changes that were taking place in this year. In September, we've got a round of STAR results in, and our team is just aggregating that data. And at next month's board meeting, we're going to do a comprehensive review of that data. But I did want to read a highlight for you, just an analysis. The 2022-23 school year marks the inaugural year of our STAR redesign. While we are not back to our pre-pandemic scores, our scores do demonstrate the intentionality in which we've approached the learning gaps. One of the major themes that I have seen early on is that we are seeing growth. And that's what you want to see. You want to see students growing. You want to see more students being successful. And we see growth at multiple campuses in various subject areas. As expected, with the STAR redesign, we did see some decline in the meets and the master's level of achievement, with the exception of the few bright spots that I just shared. And so we will continue to use the data-driven decisions that we put in place on a daily basis as we continue to disaggregate, map out our plan as we move forward for this year. I wanted to give you an example of how challenging it is this year as the goalpost has now moved. You see the two letters, the A and the B, highlighted there. And I wanted to kind of break that down for you so you could kind of really just understand at a deeper level the challenge that all school districts have this year in terms of how the goalpost has moved. So with CCMR, which is a major data point indicator for us as a school district, for all school districts, there has been a change in how that score has been calculated and how the A through F rankings are assigned based on that score. And so under the old system, schools could earn an A if 60% of the students were considered college ready. I want to say that again, just so I let that sink in. So under the last year's system and the previous year's system, in order for a school to earn an A in that CCMR category, it had to have at least 60% of the students meet the college readiness standard. But that threshold has been changed this year to 88%. So last year, what would have been an A, this year is going to be a D. Just wrap your arms around that. I mean, nothing has changed with teachers and what we're teaching and what students learned or didn't learn in just a matter of months. It's just the goalpost has been moved. The minimum CCMR score required for a B was also raised from 48% to 78%. So this year, that would be an F. Last year, it would have been a B. This year would be F. So I really highlight that just to share the challenges that we're having with this more rigorous test. But even in all of those challenges, we were still able to show some significant gains on multiple campuses, and I do look forward to providing a more comprehensive report for you. A couple of important dates, September, let me make sure I get my dates right here. September 26th is a date to note. That's the date that the Texas Education Agency will publish the new A through F ratings this year. So they'll publish them on their website September 26th. And the ratings will be released to school districts and the public on September 28th. So everyone's attention will be on those data points next month. The next item I have is just to highlight some new leaders. Been a lot of change over the summer, and I want to thank the board for allowing me to be able to, in those critical summer months, be able to get some hiring done. We would lose really good employees and opportunities if I had to wait for a board meeting. So we've got a lot of new leaders in the district. I'll be introducing them to you over the next several months, but I wanted to start with the new principals that we have this year. Mr. Brian Bird, of course, he's not new to the district. He formerly was principal at Reed Middle School. He's our new principal at Duncanville High School, and so we are looking forward to his leadership there. Ms. Tiffany Wilkerson, I think I saw her here earlier. Ms. Wilkerson, if you could stand. There you go. Congratulations, she is now the principal. Is Mr. Bird here? I didn't want to overlook Mr. Bird. He's not here today? Okay. So Ms. Wilkerson is our new principal at Pace High School. She served the district for quite some time and really excited for the new energy and the vision that she's going to bring to our campus. I do see Mr. Olish Allen back there. If you could stand, please. Mr. Allen is going to be the new principal at Reed Middle School. He served as the top lieutenant, if you will, under Mr. Bird for the last several years. So I'm excited to see him take this next step in his leadership journey. He also participated in our Grow Your Own program several years ago, where he was able to go to Texas Tech University. The board supported him and other leaders in the district to get their administrative certificate in education. And so he's really progressed in our district, and I'm excited to see him again start his leadership journey. And Miss Liliana Orozco, is Miss Orozco here this evening? She's not here. Well, Miss Orozco, you may know the last name. Her husband is the principal of Fair Meadows Elementary. And so she is joining us from Irving ISD. She is the principal at Byrd Middle School. And so we're excited to have her here and all of these leaders, and looking forward to their tenure in the district. All right, thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to President McNeely.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. And we move on to recognition. Ms. Wallace.
Good evening, President McNeely, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. If you'll place the donations, thank you. So this month, I am pleased to report that we have received upwards of $10,000 from various different entities. We received donations from Mudhook, DARS, Undies for Everyone, Knickknacks, Holy Spirit Catholic Church, and Momentum Family Chiropractic. And so once again, we are grateful to the Duncanville community for their continued support of our school district. Are there any questions about the donations? Okay, thank you.
Is there any, we'll move on to the consent agenda. To have a motion?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to consider moving some items from the action agenda list to the consent agenda. Now, this doesn't mean that we think that these activities and lists are not important, because they are very important, but we feel like that we need to go ahead and consent, vote on them, and go on. But I'd like to have us move item action number 7F, H, I, J, L, and N.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, we'll vote to approve the moving the items to the consent agenda. All in favor? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to consider all this on the consent agenda. Is there anybody have any questions on the consent agenda?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. And we'll move on now to the action agenda. 7A, call bond election for November. Dr. Alaska, you're up.
Well, good evening, President McNeely, trustees, and Dr. Smith. I am very excited to share with you this evening the next steps in our bond planning process. Next slide. Over the past several months, we've engaged in key research about the current conditions of our facilities. We've surveyed our community and worked with key stakeholders to determine a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. We are now at a pivotal point in our timeline, with today being the deadline for the board to order a bond election. Next slide. At the July regular meeting, Mr. Kratzberg, who's here with us this evening, shared as the committee representative and shared with the board the Citizens Facility Advisory Committee's recommendation. I will review the recommendation with you this evening before turning it over to Mr. Garrison to discuss financial implications of the bond. Next slide. The Citizens Facility Advisory Committee is recommending a bond totaling $170 million spread across two propositions. The first proposition focuses on safety and security, a CTE addition, renovations, capital improvements, transportation, and technology infrastructure and network updates, and is equal to $161,177,000. Proposition B is added to support the replacement of digital projectors with interactive technology monitors. Technology devices are required by law to be in a separate proposition. Therefore, Prop B, the amount is $8,823,000. Next slide. Here you can see a complete list of our recommended projects, which comes to a grand total of $170 million across two propositions. Next slide. This pie chart is another breakdown of the proposed bond, showing that a majority of the bond is targeted towards renovations and capital improvements. Next slide. The 85% targeted towards renovations and capital improvements will be dedicated to two main initiatives. One, the reconfiguration of campuses, and second, the addition of a career and technical education expansion at Duncanville High School. You can see in the picture here the location where the addition is being proposed. The addition would allow more dedicated space for our current CTE, or Career and Technical Education programs, and would allow us to expand programs and increase options for our students. Next slide. The campus reconfiguration is intended to allow us to do three things. First, provide an early childhood academy at Smith Elementary to support the needs of our earliest learners in a space specifically designed for them. Second, it would be to create standalone choice academies at Central and Brandenburg to add specialized learning options for families. And our third reason was to eliminate a transition between elementary and high school by changing current elementaries and two intermediate schools, Daniel and Hardin, to K-5 campuses. The reconfiguration of the campuses will not require any boundary changes and will also maintain a neighborhood school concept while increasing choice for our families. I will pause here for any questions about the recommendation before turning it over to Mr. Todd Garrison to discuss the financial implications. Questions? Okay. Mr. Garrison?
Good evening, President McNeely, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to discuss with you the financial aspects of the bond. The slide before you here is the tax history of the district, and it shares both the M&O and the INS. And of course, the INS is going to be the portion that is directly related to the bond. But I think that this graph, the highlights here are at the bottom. Over the last 5 years, the district as a whole has dropped the tax rate almost 27 cents. And so that's, we talk about good financial stewardship and monitoring our funds and taking care of our patrons and taxpayers. I think that's evident there that we've made a concerted effort to do that. There are a number of factors that have contributed to that. On the M&O side, you can see a slight drop there over the last 5 years, and the M&O side is coming from the tax compression from the state. But that's not the only place that you guys have saved money and made some adjustments. If you look at the INS rate in 2018 at 48 cents and now down to 32 cents, you guys have been able to make your bond payments and also reduce your tax rate for the citizens as well over that amount of time. And so looking at our current rate of $1.25 is what the rate was in 22-23. Of course, we'll adopt a tax rate at the September meeting, and we can talk a little bit about that. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit of a comparison, and you can, again, we'll highlight the 22-23 year there with the 93-cent M&O rate and the 32-cent INS rate for that same $1.25 combined rate. And why do we skip all the way to 24-25? Well, that's the rate. This is when our rate is going to be affected by the bond. Don't want to not mention where we'll be, but we've not adopted a tax rate for the 23-24 year. Again, we'll be doing that at the September board meeting. I think, again, to look at, a 27-cent reduction over 5 years to get to $1.25, and the dollar figures that you're looking at there for the M&O and the INS combined at $1.13 is another 12-cent reduction on top of the 27 cents that's already been reduced for the taxpayers. And so you're seeing a significant value in savings over the tax rate of those times. Now, you're looking at an M&O rate of 76 cents. That's a huge compression. This has to do with the state contributing more dollars and helping with that tax compression. You'll see the INS has a slight increase of about just under 5 cents, about $4.85 is what that comes out to. That increase would be from that 32 cents or where it's at, and we're recommending that we maintain that rate for the coming year. So we'll talk a lot about, because we'll propose it at the next, but around $1.08 is what we'll be looking at for this coming year. So another big drop, in the increase going into the next year would be directly related to the $170 million bond increase to get us to $1.13. Next slide, please. And then what's that, can we talk about tax rates and, homestead exemptions and values? What does that translate to? The average taxpayer here is in that $200,000 to $250,000 range. You can look at each one of those. What does that look like? So these increases, I want to be clear on this because this is the part that gets a little bit tricky. These increases are related to that 485 increase. That's the difference. So we would be talking about from next year's tax rate to the 24-25 tax rate, that 485, a little under 5 cent increase. This is what the average taxpayer would see on an increase in their bill. This does not account for the decrease that they're going to see, that they have seen, and the decrease that they will definitely see in this coming year as well. So this time I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'd also like to recognize Josh McLaughlin is here with us. He's our FA for the district, and he's also here to answer any questions you might have. I'll turn it back over to Dr. Hutch.
Thank you, Mr. Garrison. If it is the decision of the board to call for the election, I wanted to provide you with a glimpse into the communication process and planned efforts. We know it will be essential to educate our stakeholders. Therefore, multiple modalities and approaches will be utilized to communicate bond information. Next slide. I want to start first with discussing election ethics and what district employees and board members may and may not say or do during an election. Let's talk first about what you can do. You can share facts to inform people about the bond. You can encourage voting, which we've already started that. And as a private citizen, on your own time with your own resources and outside of your official capacity as a board member, you can share your opinion. However, trustees and employees, when serving in their official capacity, may not during work hours, while on campus, or while at meetings and events, politically advertise, advocate for passage or defeat of a measure, knowingly share false information, or use or allow the use of public funds or resources for advocacy. Resources include things like email, technology, those sort of things. You were each given a handout at your seat this evening to keep as a quick reference on election ethics, and I encourage you to become familiar with the do's and don'ts should you decide to call for the election this evening. So I'm going to just repeat it one more time for good measure. The state law prevents districts from using public funds or resources to advocate for or against school district elections. District resources, including board members' time in their official capacity, as well as district facilities, equipment, and supplies. It is our plan to educate all staff members on election ethics next week as we present to each campus and department. Next slide. In addition to presenting to all campuses and departments, we will communicate to our stakeholders in several ways, including a comprehensive bond website, media release, and other methods. One of our primary goals is to get more of our families, community members, and staff to become registered voters and to share their voice at the polls. Bond or no bond, we believe this is an important model and message for our students. Next slide. Social media will also be a valuable tool for sharing facts with our community, along with videos, handouts, emails, phone calls, mail-outs, and much, much more. Next slide. I'll not go through all of the planned communication efforts for sake of time this evening, but I do want you to see some of the things we have planned. There are still steps that need to be taken for full execution of these efforts, but this gives you just a good idea of what the intended outcomes are. Next slide. So just as a reminder, tonight is the deadline if we want the bond to be placed on the November ballot, with early voting starting October 23rd and Election Day being November 7th. Next slide. In your packet this evening, you've received two documents. The first one is the order of the election, which the board must act on in order to officially call for the election to be held. The other documents are the voter information documents that outline the debt obligations of the bond election. If you decide to call for the election, you must adopt the order and thus approve the voter information documents. Next slide. Therefore, it's my pleasure to recommend on behalf of administration that the board adopt the order of election calling for a November 2023 bond election based on the recommendation of the Citizens Facility Advisory Committee for two propositions totaling $170 million. I am happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the board adopt the voter information document and the election order calling for a bond election on November the 7th, 2023 for the two propositions presented totaling $170 million.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any comments? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank Dr. Alaska for all the work you've done. I'd like to thank Mr. Brackens, all the work that he's done. I'd like to thank our Citizens Advisory Committee, and I know we have some of them here tonight. I'd like for you to stand and be recognized of all the work that y'all did on this bond. If you please, at least stand up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, set a date for tax rate hearing in 2023-24. Mr. Garrison?
Good evening again, President McNeely, Board, and Dr. Smith. The action item before you is to set the meeting for the tax rate hearing and adoption. We have to do that before September 22nd by law. The recommendation is that we hold that at our normal September board meeting, which is September 11th at 6:30. So there'll be a hearing for the tax rate, and there'll be an action item for the adoption. We're also required to do a publication of that tax rate prior to, that falls no sooner than 10 days before, no further out than 30 days. That publication's set to run this Thursday as well as Sunday. So the recommendation would be to hold the tax rate hearing and adoption on September 11th.
Questions? Do I have a motion to approve that the board set September 11th, 2023 as the date for the tax rate hearing and for setting the tax rate for the 2023-24 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, third and fourth. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, we'll move on to 7C, discuss and consider ordering a special election to fill the vacancy on the Board of Trustees, Place 5. Looks like I'm up. Okay, after consulting with our attorney, it is best for the district to let the voters decide who should serve in this vital role. An appointed trustee only serves for a limited period until the next regular school board election. A trustee who wins a special election completes the entire unexpired term of the vacancy, which would be until May 2026. This will allow more consistency on the board, and members who serve longer terms gain more experience in this role. And that has been the consensus of the board to let the voters decide who sits here. Anybody got any questions or comments?
Okay, earlier we had, for the community, an opportunity to register and then present a resume by a certain date. Now, those people who did the resume and turned it in and all that, they would still need to go through this process to be on the ballot. I mean, now that this is an official election, they would have to go through the same.
They would have to fill out the forms and here at the administration building, and so that their names would appear on the ballot.
Is that online, on the trustee?
I think you can get the forms online, but you've got to turn them in here. They've got to be notarized.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to order a special election to fill the vacancy on the Board of Trustees, Place 5, that was created by the previous resignation of trustee Cassandra Phillips?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, resolution. Okay, resolution for the Board of Trustees of Duncanville Independent School District implementation of House Bill 3, Armed Security Officer Requirements. Dr. Loshka.
Good evening again, President McNeely, trustees, and Dr. Smith. In the 88th Texas Legislative Session this spring, House Bill 3 was voted into law and centers around safety and security in public schools. A section of the new law required all district schools to have an armed security officer. I'll pause for just a moment and see if we can get the presentation up. Okay, thank you. Next slide. The law specifies that you, the Board of Trustees, must determine the appropriate number of armed officers with a minimum set at one officer at each campus. Next slide. However, we can claim a good cause exception to the requirement of an armed security officer at each campus if non-compliance is due to lack of funding or adequate personnel. Next slide. With our current budget deficit and lack of personnel, we are recommending that the board claim a good cause exception to this legal requirement at this time through an adopted resolution. In accordance with the law, we are documenting how we will work towards transitioning to compliance. You have been provided a copy of the documented plan at your desk this evening for review. Currently, our district has 7 commissioned police officer positions with only 5 of the 7 filled. 2 are vacant due to lack of adequate candidates. We do have 17 security officers and 5 additional parking security officers. However, our security officers are not level 3 licensed officers, which means they are not licensed to carry a firearm in their current position. 1 police officer is stationed full-time at Duncanville High School, while the others rotate to the remaining campuses for monitoring and support. Of the 17 security officers, 3 are housed at middle school campuses as an added safety and security measure, with all others being assigned to Duncanville High School. The documented plan articulates our anticipated plan to increase our number of commissioned police officers over the next 4 years and to train our security officers to be level 3 licensed officers. Although the plan is timed for 4 years, we know this plan must be fluid depending on the district's financial condition, our efficiencies, as well as any legislative funding opportunities that may come about. Therefore, we will review and revise the plan annually to ensure the district is diligent in our efforts to comply with House Bill 3. Next slide. Therefore, it's the recommendation of the administration that the board adopt the resolution for a good cause exception to the armed security officer requirement set forth by House Bill 3. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I just want to clarify, that would be 18 officers, right? If
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
full compliance.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more questions?
Mr. President, Dr. Loshka, just for the record, could you speak to the disclaimer that we have for each year?
Yes,
Just wanna make sure
absolutely.
that is.
For each year of the plan, we have noted a disclaimer in the plan stating that, I'll read it specifically word for word. It says, execution of the planned actions will be dependent on the district's financial condition and available funding. Of course, we know that with a deficit budget this year, and you have seen the forecasted future of the budget, we want to make sure that we put that disclaimer disclaimer in this plan so that we can be prepared for any changes to our financial condition that may come about. Yes.
Might it be appropriate, instead of recommending a good cause, to make it a fluid good cause? It is fluid.
We can,
That's the state.
It's a
but-
state-
but-
it's state
But we
language.
can only do what our funds
That's right. Mm-hmm.
allow us. So we've got to mess with the state to make it right for us. But we'll be
Yeah.
addressing this every year.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
We
it's
sure will.
going to be fluid. I got it.
And I think it's important for you to know as a board as well that Dr. Smith did send feedback to the legislature when this bill came about with that exact recommendation. Unfortunately, they didn't take our recommendation on that, but he did provide feedback directly for that exact reason.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve that the board adopt the resolution for a good cause exception to the armed security officer requirement set forth by House Bill 3, Section 37.0814 of the Texas Education Code?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's do something fun. Let's name a facility.
All right, good evening again, President McNeely, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. We have received a recommendation to name Panther Stadium Reginald Sample Stadium. In accordance with Board Policy CW Local, the committee appointed by the superintendent to review the recommendation convened and thoroughly discussed the recommendation submitted by Board of Trustee Dr. Lasagna Ivory. Her recommendation states, Coach Samples has an impeccable coaching record and secured our first state championship in over a decade. In addition to his winning record, he has built a reputation of positive mentoring and integrity. Students, parents, and other coaches give him credit for much of their success. Coach Samples is the epitome of a servant leader. I believe our learning community could recognize his work and character with this naming honor. Board of Trustees, the Facility Naming Committee acknowledges that Coach Samples is one of the most decorated coaches in UIL history and has amassed the most wins among African American coaches in Texas. He has been a dedicated head coach since 1990, and we are honored that he took the helm at Duncanville High School in 2015. Pardon me. Coach Samples is relentless in his pursuit of excellence, and in the past 7 seasons, he has guided the Panthers to the playoffs 6 times, reaching the state championship game 3 times, and clinched the coveted UIL state championship title in 2022. The Facility Naming Committee met on June 26th, and with the support of administration, it is recommended that the board approve the naming of the field at Panther Stadium in honor of Coach Reginald Samples as Reginald Samples Field at Panther Stadium. Are there any questions?
Any questions? We don't want to wait 10 more years for the next one. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve naming the field at Panther Stadium in honor of head football coach Reginald Samples as a Reginald Samples Field at Panther Stadium?
So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any comments? Well, come on, we can make some comments.
May I, President?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you.
You own the place.
Just want to say, I've had the opportunity to work with Coach Samples during my tenure here. I've worked with a lot of head coaches in my time, and Coach Samples definitely stands head and shoulders above many of the coaches, not because of the X and O's and the championships. That is a given. What I'm talking about is the impact that he has on the young people. I've been able to see it and live it, see the relationships that's established. I see how he mentors them. There's one young man who is back here that is returning to his coaching staff. My first year here, he was a starting quarterback. And Coach kind of mentored him all the way through his tenure when he was at Texas State, and now he shows back up here and is starting his education career. That's just one, but there are many, 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 many other stories. And so we all want to live a life where we make an impact and make a difference and make something better for somebody else. Well, he's made a lot of somebody else's, excuse my English, but he's made a lot of people better because of his presence. And that's what I most appreciate. The wins are really fun. That is just a part of what comes when you have this kind of impact on others. But I just want to share publicly that I've been able to see that and live that, and it is an honor to be here to see the field named after such a fine human being. So congratulations, Coach Samples.
President McNeely, may I invite him up?
First of all, I'd like to thank the members of the board, administrative staff, Dr. Smith, all the members of the community for your support. It is truly heartwarming to have an honor like this. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, but more importantly, my family thanks you, because this is something that, as I go on, it'll be something that they can cherish. So thank you so much.
Coach, before you leave,
Wait a minute, other people got something to say to you.
Oh,
And
okay.
it'll be nice this time. Go ahead.
Coach, I'd like to just thank you for all of the time and effort and just giving of yourself. I've been able to see you on the other side because we were co-workers and colleagues at one time, and what people know what you do on the field and for your players and their parents. But I was also able to talk to you, and not just me, but other teachers and administrators would pull on you to help with other male students at the high school. So you don't just relegate yourself to football players. You make yourself available to help with students. And so I'm glad that I was able to work with you and see that part of what you do. You are just an example of servant leadership, and we appreciate the grit that you have and your determination to win as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to say, I've worked with a lot of coaches. You're as fine a coach as I've ever worked with. And I understand what it takes to get a team to where you've gotten Duncanville program and maintain that. Most people, when you start winning, they say, oh, he's got all the talent in the world. Well, yeah, he got some talent, but man, you got to do something with them. And what you do with them off the field is amazing. What you do with them on the field is amazing. And I'm glad that I've gotten to know you and watch you work the last few years. I'm through.
I want to thank you for coming to Duncanville. I love sharing my hometown with you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Coach, we're proud of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Don't forget, we got to vote on it.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's right. Okay. All in favor? Coach, it passed. Okay. 7G, Dr. Jordan.
Good evening, President McNeely, trustees, Dr. Smith. For the 2022-23 school year, one of our top priorities, it's very difficult to follow Coach Samples, right? One of our top priorities was to ensure that we had high-quality instructional materials and intervention resources that met the diverse needs of our students. And thanks to you and the approval board, we were able to, in November and December, ensure that our students had resources in their hands and our teachers had plug-and-play materials to use for last year. This year, as we continue to address our learning gaps, one of our top priorities is to focus on our emergent bilingual students. Our emergent bilingual students, some of you may know or recognize them as English language learners. They have continued to develop their home language while learning a new language. English language learners who have academic language proficiency understand that English that makes the learning of academic concepts and skills fully accessible. So we've done a great job of providing resources for our Tier 1 during the class instruction for all students. Now we are asking the board to invest in an intervention resource that supports our emergent bilingual students by allowing them to focus in on listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The K-12 Connect to Literacy Online provides just that support, not only for our students, but also for our teachers in the classroom. And so we are asking the board to approve the purchase of K-12 Connect to Literacy for our emergent bilingual students.
Any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the purchase of Summit K-12 Connect Literacy for grades K through 12 in the amount of $67,925?
So moved.
Motion made, moved, seconded. Anything else?
Thank you.
All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, consider approving the Duncanville Hi-Hats to perform at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade on November 18th through the 24th, 2023. Dr. Nix, please, sir.
Good evening, Board President, members of the board, Dr. Smith. It is an absolute honor to bring for your consideration this agenda item. Board, I'd like to take a moment of just privilege just to thank you. You know, every time that I have the opportunity to get up, you don't just support our student athletes, you don't just support our students who are just doing great things, you support all of our students. And our fine arts students are very thankful for your support. You've been very gracious in allowing them to take advantage of the opportunities that come along, and this is no different. Board, I stood here to ask you to do something that was unprecedented for our fine arts students several months ago, for these same hi-hat students, and that was to allow them, or for the consideration to allow them to go on a cruise, to the Carnival Cruise, to perform at the Ovation Theater. And you approved that. And that was an amazing opportunity for our students. It went off without a hitch. The reviews were wide and they were great. And Duncanville's name and those young ladies and their parents and that performance resonated throughout not just Duncanville, but literally throughout the United States. And so this is another one of those opportunities that we have for our young ladies to participate in one of the largest and oldest parades in the nation, and that's the Macy's Day Parade. And this is the 97th Macy's Day Parade. They'll have the opportunity to perform at Times Square. This is a wonderful opportunity for our hi-hat young ladies and our director, and for the parents that will be participating as chaperones for this. Currently, we have about 19 young ladies that would be attending. We have 6 chaperones, parents that would be attending. That's a ratio of about 3 to 1. The actual itinerary you have there of everything that this package would include, it's more than just participating in the parade. It's actually a complete performer package that would allow these young ladies to participate in. And it would be my pleasure to answer any questions that you may have at this time. I'd also like to share that we have our Director of Fine Arts here to assist me in answering any specific questions that you may have. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what the fundraising ideas are at this point? I mean, it's just a couple of months away, really.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Doucet has been very instrumental, with the help of a few influential people, to really bolster the opportunities for fine arts for things like concessions. You know, we get a lot of money from concessions, and so for these young ladies to be a part of that is great. I don't know the specific fundraisers that they are using. I'm going to ask Mr. Doucet if he has that command of that information, and if not, then we can get that to you. Mr. Doucet, do you know? Oh, Ms. Dawson, you
I'm
want to
sorry.
talk? Yeah, Ms. Dawson.
Yes, just one question as we get going.
Yeah.
Dr. Nix, I don't really think we have to find out what fundraisers. I think what we really want to know is our starting point. Like, how much money do we have right now, and how much more do we need?
How much per girl? What the money we talking about?
3,000, is it? That's the director there.
Good evening, President, Trustee, Superintendent. What question was I answering exactly? I think it was, how much money per girl? You said who? I'm sorry. Well, actually, we do not have any,
Okay.
but we knew that we could not do any fundraising prior to being approved to go. So we do have a lot of them already lined up and turned in, and they're literally just waiting approval for the trip.
Do you know how much that is?
How much per kid?
It's roughly $3,000 per student.
How much?
Roughly $3,000 per student.
And 19 students?
Mm-hmm.
So
It-
is that,
Hang
Go
on a
ahead.
minute.
$60,000.
Give or take, yes, ma'am.
does that cover 3,000, does that cover all activities and anything else?
Yes, all activities. We did the rooms itself, or in the package deal was $2,600, so we did put in an additional $400 for a flight, but it does cover all food, activities, Broadway shows, performances, costumes, transportation, everything.
What are your deadlines?
So it is honestly as soon as possible, but we did speak with one of the representatives over the parade, and he did give us the option of, they open up the parade February the 1st. And so he did say that he would honor our audition and our application to where, once they reopen up the parade, that we will be able to make our payment then in February the 1st for next year's parade if we're not able to meet the deadline. Yes, ma'am.
Are there only 19 hi-hats?
Yes.
Really?
When do you have, okay, you start raising money. What's the deadline? You have to let them know you're coming or not coming, or I have the money, or I can see the
So once-
end or the light at the end of the tunnel, to let Macy's or whoever's doing it.
So,
Are you telling them right now you're going?
No, we have not communicated anything with them. They do know that we are interested in going. So once we are approved to go, then we do have the option to go in and pretty much, I guess, put down a deposit and even just submit our names. And then from there, the gentleman who will be able to let us know, since we are kind of cutting it close, he will be able to let us know exactly when all funds are due.
Okay.
Our deposit amount was roughly, I believe, like $100 per girl. That's still now. That's still now. But now I can honestly say I do not know the exact deadlines because we would have to get with the coordinator just to kind of see where we are.
When you kind of figure out where you are, can you come kind of let us know so we can kind of look and see what we can find?
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And besides the actual parade, it's sort of a week-long trip, isn't it? I mean, you're going to
Yes.
see other sites and educational opportunities
Yes.
in New York.
It is a lot of
Yeah,
different
okay.
events. Mhm.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
if you look at the information that she provided on page 197, shows everything that the performer package includes, which is very good for dancers. Very, very good.
Yes.
Especially in New York.
Yes.
My question is, what is the deadline that you have
So,
for the money to be paid?
I'm hoping that we could get everything in by the beginning of October.
October 1st?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Just keep us up.
Okay, yes, sir, I will do.
Okay, let's vote on it, though. Do I have a motion to approve the out-of-state travel for Duncanville High School hi-hat drill team for the purpose of performing at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade on November 18th through the 24th of 2023?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Motion passes. Yes, ma'am.
So, once the deposit is paid, if for some reason you can't, you're unable to get the remaining funds, will the deposit be returned? No.
Also in the material, it talks about cancellation insurance, which I would definitely recommend.
So, again, we do have the option to take out the insurance, and the insurance does allow for the deposit to become refundable. And also, again, we do have the option where, once it opens back up in that February 1st, to pretty much transfer those funds to,
Next year.
for next year's parade.
I'll pay the $1,900 deposit.
Whoa. Okay,
Okay.
good job.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
I'll throw in some too.
Thank you, thank you.
I could.
Keep us up where you are on this fundraising stuff,
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, sir.
because you never know.
Yes, sir. We'll have a comprehensive report for you, for Dr. Smith to share with the board and let you know exactly where we are. Thank you, board.
Okay. Okay, now we move on to nominating a board member, or nominating one of our board members for the position on the TASB board. I would like to recommend that we nominate Janet Veracruz.
Second?
So moved.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I thought yours was the motion.
Yeah, I did say it kind of like that, didn't I? But that's who, okay. So, all in favor of nominating Janet Vera Cruz as our nominee for the TASB board, raise your hand. That doesn't sound real smart, does it? Motion carries.
Remind me
6-0.
not to miss a meeting.
That's true. You think that's hidden? Okay, any, Jody, any citizen? All right. That's it. Let's go home. Hey, I'll handle that. Meeting's adjourned.